Okay. I just set off Claude in the background. I just had another meeting and I set off Claude in the background to go and compare the timelines of IOG and the project committee. Just reading the response. It's all.
Good morning.
Yeah. We have these things called black clouds above my house, and I'm sort of wishing, I'm going to go and do a rain dance or sacrifice a chicken or something to even get some rain on me. We haven't had any for months.
Can you sacrifice it in a soup so you get to eat it as well if it's a chicken?
No idea.
Well, my relatives in West Virginia actually attend a cook-off for roadkill. Fun random fact.
Yeah. Where I used to live, there was a guy who would come and sell it to you. You could have a standing order on roadkill.
Oh, no kidding.
Because in the UK, if you hit a deer, say, in your car, you can't pick it up, but the guy behind you can. Can't eat it. No. But actually, basically, you can't kill the stuff you can't eat. You can't. The stuff you accidentally kill, you can't have, because that would encourage people to drive into deer, and as opposed to avoid them.
Well, for hillbillies and country rednecks,
the rules. Oh yeah, I realized that. Yeah.
I had a friend who actually went deer hunting and used his bull bar to kill the deer. It flipped over and landed in the bed of his truck. It was just one and done.
Yeah, it's
not that I recommend it, but it was effective and it saved not having to use any ammo. So.
What's a refreshed Mr. Hammond?
Hi, Rob. Yeah, just trying to get all the machines working after the break. Some of them have decided their own holiday. So I've prepared an agenda in the Slack chat. I've just pasted it here. It's including a couple of items that Bosco had recommended. Welcome, Alonso. Before we start, as usual, were there any other items that anyone would like to add to the agenda, or anything people would like to prioritize? I'll take that as a no. So welcome to the Technical Steering Committee meeting of the 19th of August 2026, and things are hotting up both outside and inside. We have, by my count, 8 committee members present, so we will core it if we need to take any decisions. And I don't believe we received apologies from anyone. So Alex Moser is absent, but he may turn up later. Great. So welcome, everyone. And thank you very much for covering in my absence. Thank you, Bosco. Thank you, Christian. Much appreciated. I'll try not to go away too often, but you may have to do this again in future. So agenda for today, let's kick off as usual with the actions from the last meeting. So Bosco.
Yeah, sure. Sharing the link that I have. Sorry. So, yeah, August 19th. So actions from the last meeting. Minutes. Let me see this one. Action decisions. Okay. On Alex to coordinate with Marcus to ensure SIP 145 is included in the upcoming SPO campaign, but I think that was already done, if I'm not mistaken. Marcus, I don't know. I will check with Alex. I'm not sure on this. Does anybody know? Or can move on. I will keep it for the time being. Okay. This is about basically a sentiment from SPOs and on voting. So not only, and Alex did post, did put something on X today himself. I reposted that one. Ryan here liked that one as well. So, I mean, that's the only thing that I saw, but I don't know whether it's something else. I would say that we can probably utilize some of the comms people from Intersect to do it officially through PSC, through Intersect own account, and then to spread the message through other Cardano entities to help them reshare and repost as it currently stands low with SPO participation on the vote.
We'll come back to this in the agenda, Bosco.
Yeah. Yeah. So I was just referring maybe too much at the time being. Okay, so this is the thread that I actually started today, but it's about the SIP editor, so we can come to that as well on the agenda itself. This is also on the agenda. Okay, this was a long-standing item, so Christian, anything there? But that is also on the agenda, right? And then this is something that Christian did. Neil responded, so we can come today in the anything good business part if you agree. So
yeah, it's just something to give to Nick Clark, but I would consider it wraps on it for the moment.
Okay, so we can move on
to discuss, Christian, or can we just tick that off at this point in time? Do we need to cover it in the agenda?
No, it's like what Neil was saying. Most of the things from the security side are GitHub admin things that need to be enabled. So, but I'll do another re-review and reopen it if there's something of concern. But it's more open source committee at that point.
Yeah, just for information for this group, I don't know if it's been covered, but my understanding is the Security Council has now exhausted all of the budget for the bug bounty program. So that will be in abeyance pending further budget.
Well, I guess the bounty program stays open, just no allocations, right? Basically.
Yes, we'll need to have a discussion about that. I mean, we'll continue to accept reports, but the question is whether we would backdate any payment if we were to receive additional funding.
Gotcha. That's going to have to coordinate the, I guess, Intersect's budget itself.
Yes, which is a hard ask given the reduction in the ADA value, Christian. But
I follow.
I mean, I'd agree with you. It's been a very valuable program. It's flushed out quite a lot of issues. We've had a lot of engagement with it, and it would be great to keep it going. Tex, you were going to say something.
Yeah, I've put the text in the chat here, but we did receive an inquiry yesterday through one of the various support channels at Intersect, inquiring about the program, and the response provided is the OSC had a limited budget for rewarding reported findings. Intersect's technical team plans to continue the program. However, a specific budget has not been set. The OSC does still have the requirement of completing reporting and formally closing out their ownership of the program. So for the time being, reports are still encouraged, but they would be classified as advisory only. Again, I've only provided this text for now until other text or other knowledge is available. So,
yeah, and as a meta point, I would say I think the budget, unfortunately, is not treating security as seriously as it should be. Security is the underpinning of the Cardano chain, and we need to treat it very seriously.
Couldn't agree more.
Okay, so that covers off the actions from the last meeting. Thank you for preparing those, Bosco, and for everyone for carrying them out. It's going to kick off by covering the state of play on the Dijkstra hard fork. There was a hard fork working group meeting yesterday that I attended, but Ryan, would you like to cover this?
Sure. Looks like there's some talk about the impact assessments would be documented in the Cardano upgrades page. A lot of discussion about protocol parameters. I brought up that the parameter committee is interested in figuring out what those parameters are. Also that they are a blocker for the constitutional change in the guardrails, so that will need to be taken up on that end as well. There was some discussion about Carlos wanting to meet with the parameter committee earlier than our planned 3 weeks. No, I guess it's like 2.5-ish weeks meeting. I see Neil's got the comments. I'll let you jump in.
It should be noted that we were expecting him to turn up to the last meeting. Okay.
Yeah, I think there was some scheduling.
Yeah, but the committee was there waiting for him.
Yep.
He was away, and that wasn't communicated to you, Neil, apparently.
Well, right, okay, but fine. Yes, I'm just sitting.
Yeah. There was some discussion there, Ryan. My understanding. So I pressed Carlos a bit for when he would be in a position to provide us with information, and he basically said it would take him about 3 weeks to get the information together anyway. Okay. So I've asked explicitly in the hard fork working group channel. I've indicated the parameter committee readiness to engage sooner, provided the material is available to it in enough time to review. So the ball is in very much in IO's court there. And to be frank, looking at the schedule that Jeff provided us with, I've just had time to look through it. I don't see this as being that urgent at this point in time. So obviously the sooner we have information, the more we can analyze it in depth. But we'll come back to this when we look at the timing of the hard fork. But the proposal is that the hard fork governance action would be enacted, for example, at the beginning of December, but the constitutional amendment that would enable the guardrails would only be submitted in mid-January 27. So there's latency in there, which means that it may not. It's not a critical blocker. It's not on the critical path.
I think just as a point of information, if you wanted to move it forward, we'd need the details by end of this week, so that we could do it. So we could move it forward. At end of next week, it would meet the normal schedule of the thing. So if we could encourage them to have it ready for the end of next week, it would just fit into the normal schedule. Okay.
We'll raise that, so we can raise that. I've said we need at least 2 weeks.
Yeah, and actually, that was actually giving them. That was just giving us forward a couple of working days. Okay.
If we don't treat the parameters as a blocker for the hard fork and instead plan on, doing the guardrails after the hard fork, there is a trade-off of risk there of being unable to change parameters that are needed to. So that needs to be definitely considered.
Sooner is definitely better, but we need concrete information, not hand waving, for them to work against.
What we absolutely do need, Ryan, is to know all of the parameters and the initial proposed settings. So the guardrails we can postpone, but we do need to look at at all the parameters. These will all need to be included in the Genesis file for the Dijkstra hard fork, and we will need to study the initial settings. So that's what's on the critical path, rather than the guardrails. Guardrails,
right?
Hi, Alex.
Hi, SIP 164. Linear layers, according to Sebastian Nagel, already contains all the parameters that are gonna be introduced. Maybe 1 or 2 will be added.
That's the problem, Alex. Right.
This is some of the current state of affairs. So we can. What I took from this is that if we, especially on the parameter committee, want to take a look at what is planned, we can take 164 already as schema and then just look at the additions.
Looking at the document, apparently Paris has new protocol parameters The fee functions have new parameters. Plutus v4 has new parameters. Reference scripts has new parameters, and both of the incentive SIPs also have new parameters.
So there's more to it than just the linear layouts parameters, and all of those will need to be exposed in the Dijkstra hard fork, and initial settings will need to be made for those. Yeah. So there's quite a lot to do. One of the other things we'll have to do, of course, Alex, is the SIP 164 contains Greek letters, for example, for some of the parameters, and I'm pretty sure those won't be the actual parameter names. So we'll need to watch out for translation there. We will need to be sure that the parameters are actually properly defined. One of the things that happens sometimes between the publication of a specification and the implementation is that the definitions get changed in subtle ways. So it may be that the parameters are not fulfilling exactly the same purpose that they were in the design document. We'll need to watch out for that. So there's quite a lot of work to do there. The timelines, so the hard timelines would be prior to submission of the governance, prior to the submission of the hard fork governance action on preview, we would need to have fully worked out parameters, but maybe not exact initial settings. Prior to submission on mainnet or pre-prod, we would need the exact settings. And we would need to work back a few weeks from that to determine them. So we can do, did I include a discussion of the timeline here? I think I did. We can work backwards, but basically, if the hard fork was to be enacted on the 5th of December, given that hard forks have taken 35 days to be ratified in the past, that means that the beginning of November will be the mainnet submission, 2 to 3 weeks before that minimum for pre-prod to satisfy the community is the middle of October. So you're getting pretty close to needing those definitions already to have them properly discussed. And we don't even have performance data, I suspect, to be able to set an initial setting. So the timeline to me looks very compressed.
I think that's the timeline looks, and the compressed is a nice way of saying it. I think the timeline is out with the fairies, right? In the sense that it's assuming judicious use of time machines to catch time back up. I'm just saying it doesn't make it has no. It's not that it doesn't have any. It's assuming perfection in all possible outcomes, which is stupid, right?
I would say the timeline is compressed. It's fragile, and it's optimistic in some.
It's overly optimistic because it's basically its fragility is it's already starting to crack, right?
Yeah. Yes.
I'm saying this not because I want to be nasty to them. I'm just saying it's setting the expectations were unlikely to be met, and because to meet those expectations, we're going to need slack for the inevitable problems. And they're not building up any slack in the process.
But we'll know within basically a couple of weeks whether the timeline is even feasible.
Yes, because I added to the TSC meeting a pictorial representation of the timeline as extracted from Jeff's document, which is interesting reading. And
you've seen the one which I've provided from Claude based on previous assessments. So there's a difference there. One of the so the current state of play is that Node version 1.2 is in preparation. That will have that's going to be released today, tomorrow, sometime this week as a pre-release version, not a mainnet version. That only has precursors for the Dijkstra hard fork. Node version 1.3, my understanding, is going to include, Bosco can correct me, block. So it's going to include the block structure for linear Laos, but I don't think it's going to have a complete definition of the linear Laos protocol at that point. So if we're looking at timelines for releases, we can expect 1.2 to become mainnet ready within a couple of weeks, assuming no problems are found. And we could expect 1.3 to become available in mid-September, again, assuming there are no problems found. So basically, I think they've got, if this timeline is going to be met, I think 1.3 is the critical version. I don't think there's going to be scope.
And you're saying 1.3 has the semantic, what block? You sound like it has syntactic elements, but not the semantic elements of Laos in it.
Well, Bosco can correct me if I misunderstood, but my understanding from the release meeting was that was the case. That would have just the block structure, but
Right.
not the voting elements, for example.
That's how I understood Sebastian as well. So.
Yeah. So that's implying, Bosco, that there's going to be a 1.4. Okay.
Sorry, 11.4.
11.4. Sorry.
But I understood that those precursor changes would come into 11.2, and then 11.3 would be the thing, which is the thing that I understood 2 weeks ago. So it might be one or the other.
Let's double check that. I didn't take notes yesterday, but 11.3 would be the critical point, I think, Neil. If 11.3 is not basically complete, then there's no chance of this timeline, or minimal chance of this timeline being met.
And the point is, when you boot up 11.3, if it's changed, this is changing the on. Does this mean a change to the transported blocks? I mean, what's the effective change of 11.3?
Oh well, the 11.3 is introducing the new block structure that will be enabled.
So basically, under a network protocol flag, i.e., when will they be transmitted across the network and nodes have to receive them?
Only following the hard fork. Yeah.
So there's going to be no code path is going to run over those blocks.
No mainnet code path is going to run over those blocks.
Okay.
Testnet code paths could run over those blocks.
And this is under this. In the past, we have had protocol versions at the network level that would negotiate which set they were going to work with, so that we could actually make sure that there were enough nodes and all that. I'm slightly confused now as to how the if you're telling me it's going to be there but not used, that's not normally the way it happened. Basically, they were there and they were duly enabled. Then they started being used, and then you flipped.
Yeah. So you what you're describing is the rollout pattern for some sort of network.
Well, the point is you want to roll out, you want to negotiate the new version, which says I'm ready to do this stuff and start it, right? And then you have to be in the position where the nodes are capable of processing with the objects. So what I'm saying is, it isn't a matter of just having a red letter day and turning it on. You've basically got to build up, and you've got to build it so that the system doesn't fall apart. You don't end up with a partition in the network, right?
But that's what the hard fork is for, Neil. Right?
No. The hard fork is for enabling at the very end, right? Is for enabling a change in the default functionality. The functionality has to exist in the system, and always has existed months before we actually hard fork, right?
Yeah, but that's exactly what's happening here. As I understand. Maybe Martin has some more detail.
Detail for what? Sorry.
So Martin, they're talking about 11.3 having a new block format, okay? And my question was, is there an upgrade to the network protocol so that you can signal that you're using the new block format, and then I'm being told no, it'll only come into play when you've done the hard fork.
I don't know the implementation details, but I'd assume the network level versions would change.
Yeah, I mean, that's always what's happening in the past, and they have preceded the change to the hard fork. Yeah. The network is always capable of doing more than is actually enabled in the, or at least as much as is enabled in the hard forks. So I think, Kevin, I would like to understand how when that's happening.
Okay, so I'll make a note of that, Neil.
Mhm.
So what we're saying is the block format could change before the hard fork.
No, what I'm actually saying is that if the block running code, if the code is sitting there for the block format, but it's never exchanged between anybody, and you can't actually put it on the network and another node can't pick it up, right? Which is a network level change, not a ledger level change, right? Then it's nothing. It has no value because you haven't de-risked it by using it, right? That's the way. This is the way we've done it for the last 10 years to make sure we don't shoot ourselves in the foot, right? So typically, what would happen is you start running on the new format, on the new network level, which can do both things, right? In some shape or form, do both levels of format changes, and then as more and more nodes started negotiating the new version of the network, you got confidence that that path was working fine.
Okay.
I'd assume this is done this way, exactly. That this it's committed to the repository, and the new version is being used when the new network version is negotiated.
The protocols will be there. They'd be run. They would be able to be run. They may not be turned on because there's not enough voting for them yet. Okay, right? But the other stuff would work.
I think the split here is to commit the ledger changes first and start to use them, and in another release will come the protocol upgrade that will actually take advantage of that change than before. But it's like it will be encoded this way.
Right. So this is what I meant. This is the syntactic. The point is we need to run the syntax through the system before we actually start trying to use all of the semantics. It's a solid concrete.
I don't see how this could be done otherwise.
I can't either. That's what I was worried about.
Okay. So in the part when we've done this in the past, we've had quite a nice timeline. So Leonard is very good at mapping out these timelines and saying what needs to be done when. And it's sounding as if this is one of the things that needs to be mapped out as in some node version, and it's a precursor to the hard fork itself. Martin, is my understanding about, so when is the new block format being introduced? Is it 1.2 or 1.3?
Oh, I don't know the details. I just came from vacations. Maybe something was communicated in last week and I missed something.
Okay, we can check that and clarify.
Yeah. All I'm saying is, you're telling me an endpoint. I'm saying I know there must be intermediate points. When are they happening? Right?
Yeah, and as I said, when we've done this in the past, the diagrams that Leonard's produced have been quite good at showing all of the intermediate points.
Because those are the points at which we may have to engage in an emergency repair action. Every one of them could cause a problem with the system, right? Or in principle, right?
Okay. Sorry, Bosco, you've got your hand raised.
I noticed something. So you were mentioning 5th December, and I know that was the date that was originally circulated. What I do see in the IO plan right now, in the current version of it, it's 25th. So it's 20 days later.
25th of December.
Yes, for the NAC.
For
I'm just saying what it states. I'm not judging. I'm just saying.
Okay, I took the document away with me. I printed it off 2 weeks ago. So
Yes, so what I see, I would say that was the recent change. As originally, if I remember correctly, it was meant that, yes, in the governance section would be submitted sometime mid-November, 15th, right? And then the enactment was 5th, so that would mean short voting window, meaning that everything would be voted soon enough. Right now, I see the date 25th there in the moderate confidence plan. In the higher confidence plan, it's submitted in February and then enacted in March.
right.
So
Okay.
that's in that publicly available document.
Okay. Could you share the link to that? Because as I said,
Yeah, of course. While you were speaking about this, I was trying to look at these things as I was worried that we are speaking against a different timeline. This one.
so the high confidence route gives more slack, which is good.
Yes, so there are two alternative plans listed in that document. So one is moderate confidence and one is a higher confidence.
Yeah, I think Neil's casting doubt on moderate confidence being moderate.
But it wasn't
Again,
there,
not very
there were only 2 plans. I thought there were 3. No? Well, isn't there a high, low confidence plan as well? You know.
I don't see. I saw only 2 of them.
Okay.
Right now in the document.
Only moderate and high, Neil. So Ryan, just to close this off because I'm conscious of the time. Has the scope been fully defined now? Because before I went away, it was still under discussion. Do we have defined scope for the hard fork? Yes or no? And what, if so, what is it?
That's a great question. I thought it was defined at the end of last month, but there does seem to be continued discussion. It sounds like, so the Amario team was talking about it, the frozen scope, and they says that they're going to be ready, assuming that's the scope that we go for, by the mainnet hard fork. So
Yes.
It sounds like that's frozen now.
Yes, I would say that's my impression as well.
Yeah. I mean, it doesn't mean people won't continue discussing it, but my understanding is that it's frozen.
Yeah, and do we have a definition of it somewhere? Is that?
I believe it's
It's in different places.
the hard fork governance delivery plan. Are we able to share that document? I have that. Or is it the? Yeah, it's got.
You have it under the product committee. You have it under the Cardano upgrade space for hard forks. It's
I'll share it.
replicated in a few places.
Yeah, I've seen multiple definitions of scope in various places.
Yes. So the only question yesterday on the call was me starting and then Nick elaborating better on whether there are any other changes that doesn't require hard fork that are in the node itself. So whether there is anything else that would impact the downstream tools. Any vulnerabilities, anything really at this moment that is known. We even asked that question and Jeff was pretty clear on the thing that the scope is frozen. Yes.
Yeah. So what I can say from the Security Council perspective is there may be some open issues, but we're not. I'm not aware of anything major at this point in time. So I think Jeff is correct to say the scope is going to be essentially as defined, but obviously things can crop up. Unexpected things can crop up.
Yes. As he pointed out, I think he's discussed that with Jack about P0, P1, something that happens obviously needs to go in, but essentially at the moment nothing is certain or nothing is known yet.
Great.
If you allow me, I just asked. These are extracted just now from the document that Jeff has supplied.
Yeah, that's the.
I have got them to basically be put on the same confidence. Okay.
Okay.
To give some.
Yeah.
So the moderate confidence time. What's the?
So basically, starting at about the same point, Neil.
Well, basically we can. One has, as you said, they have different slack in them, right? But the they both have testnet launched, and the moderate notice the moderate confidence. I wish they don't quite have the same names in them. That's interesting, isn't it? The high confidence plan doesn't have or has feature. Right. The interesting one of the I don't know if you can see my mouse. Right. It should be noted that the high has feature complete components here in the moderate confidence plan. Right. But basically the high confidence plan doesn't have feature completeness until November, 2 months later. There's a 2-month gap between feature completeness here. A difference in feature completeness. So they've built in there is a large level of confidence mismatch between when the thing can be feature complete.
Okay, that's some of the margin which is being built into the.
Well, no, you say it's margin, right? That's from an engineering perspective, but actually from a confidence perspective, from a risk perspective, they're basically saying that they have high confidence of it being done in 2 months' time. They have moderate confidence of it being done at the end of September. And there's 2 months difference in those confidence intervals, right? And that it's not slack, it's confidence, right?
What Jeff stated almost at the end of the meeting yesterday was exactly the thing. The biggest reason to cry, if I want to quote him, would be that if the node is ready by the designated time for the moderate confidence plans. So that is the biggest worry. So whether the node will be ready by the designated time in the moderate confidence plan.
So this is all. So I think what we're saying here is that the highest element of lack of confidence is actually the completion of the system, the actual whatever that word, what we're using it, feature completeness.
Yes, that was my understanding at the end of the yesterday's meeting.
Right. Okay, it's 2 months difference.
Yeah, which is not surprising given.
It's not surprising, but it is a lot given. This is actually only 1 month out. It's it's done in 1 month or it's done in 4 months. So it's a 3-month margin of error in an item that's supposed to be finished in 1 month. It's another way of looking at it. That's all I'm saying, right? And you can see I have been and then I'm sure there's, if we look at this a bit more carefully, right, flagged inconsistency. Yeah, well, this is I found some inconsistencies in looking at the model, but it doesn't matter. The real things are, yeah.
If you pass
always on the critical path, by the way,
Yeah.
It never leaves the critical path, right?
Okay. The other thing I've noticed and I've called out in the chat is there's not a rollout plan for this. I think we discussed that before, Neil. But essentially, apart from getting the constitutional amendments in place, the plan essentially says we deliver it and that's it. Okay.
Actually, we deliver it, you hard fork it, and it's turned on.
Yes, well, possibly turned on.
No. That's what their current plan is.
Well, it's not clear because we don't know what the parameter settings are.
No. Actually, sorry, I read it today. What it currently states is you switch it on, and when enough registrations are enacted for the voting stuff, it turns itself on. When it passes the 75%, they're suggesting 75%. So once 75% of the stake says it's willing to engage in the voting, it turns itself on.
Automatically turns itself on.
I think this is a very dangerous thing to do. Okay, and therefore we're going to have a discussion about it, right?
Yeah, but the other thing it's not doing is to gradually increase any of the settings, Neil. So there needs to be a plan. There's a plan for stress testing on mainnet, but what we...
No, you don't mean stress testing on mainnet. You mean stress testing on testnet.
No. If you read the plan, at least the version I read, it said stress testing on mainnet. Read it carefully.
Right. That is yes.
But there basically isn't a rollout plan.
There isn't. I do note they agree there should be a fallback plan, but they don't mention what it is. Right. It looks like it looks like the community's being given to hold a lot of the risk here. Right.
Okay, so this is basically, as I was saying in the chat, this is how you get from SRL 7 or 8, which is delivery of something which is complete, to something which is production ready and battle tested.
Which is SRL 9, yes.
SRL 9. So it's how do you take that gap? Okay, but there will need to be a properly worked out rollout plan.
Yeah. So I think we should point out for the recording that this means that all of these things add time, and none of this time is currently in either of the timescales as in the proposed document or in the document from IOG.
Okay, great. Should we move on from that?
Do you want small suggestions? So do you want to continue on linear layers maybe first and then budget, or you want to keep the order as it is?
Well, I think we've basically covered most of the issues to do with linear layouts, haven't we?
Is there anything that
Is there anything else you want to raise, Neil?
I'm just looking. I put all of this in the. Oh, where is it gone? Sorry.
I saw you put it in the chat earlier, but
I put it in the chat earlier. But the reason for writing it down is so I can forget it. Does that make sense? Here we go. Right. So they disagree with the demand. There's this issue of larger. I do have some confusion as this of the larger using linear layers blocks. His scope is still evolving. I'm assuming that SIP 164 is out of scope. Got a companion in 18th of August. I am assuming that is way out of scope, right? That's not being added.
There was some discussion of SIP 164 going on. SIP 164 is linear layouts itself, isn't it?
Well, it's actually, according to what we just said, it's all the parameters, right?
No, it's the document the document that defines linear layouts.
Right.
The SIP that defines it.
Right.
But there were some updates to the SIP that were being discussed.
Right. So I'm saying if people are, the point is there must be. I think what we want to know is what they're I would be gobsmacked if they're going to add more try to add more functionality at this point, like bigger transactions, right?
That was being discussed earlier this week. So I pointed that out to the TSC. So there's a push for allowing larger transactions within linear layouts.
Well, actually within the EB than within the RB, yes?
Within the EB, but the ones that wouldn't fit in the RB. So I can understand the rationale for that, but it does.
That changes that none of the performance or interaction properties of that change has been considered by anybody.
Not in detail. So Alexei has looked at it in outline, and he's pushing back against the change.
Right.
Okay. So on the PR, you can see Alexei's comments.
And this would basically the whole MEV front running would be this would just absolutely play into the MEV front running problem as well.
It would play into the MEV front running problem potentially. It would. One other issue is it might.
No. The point is, no. I'm sorry, Kevin, and you've softened it a bit. Given that this thing could only ever appear in an EB, right? all the other intermediate RBs that had seen the transaction could front run it safely. Okay, so it really does play into it's not, you know, it's not a mitigatable thing because it can only exist in EBs, right?
Yeah, and the block producers, they had the option of not creating the EB anyway, so they could always
and basically, you know, people would see. I mean, this whole issue of, you know, I'm just saying. So it's not possibly. I'm just saying, trivially, you can see that it's a risk, right? And if you can trivially see the risk, then it's up to them to point out why it's not a risk or why it doesn't matter. They can't just say, "Oh, I'm not going to worry about that risk," which is what I'm just saying. That's not the language I think TSC should be. We should be far more robust about these things. This is way too late to start proposing a change of this magnitude to the linear layers.
What do you want to comment on the pull request?
I mean, the point is keeping up to date with all this stuff is really hard, right? But I mean, I think that we can see if we can. I'll add it to my list of things to do. I'll try and find the pull request and just say at this TSC meeting it was discussed and this felt like a silly idea. Okay, all right.
Yeah, I've linked it to the TSC chat. The other thing it potentially does is to allow the mempool to be filled up at low cost or no cost. Because if you know that if you know the EBs aren't going to be constructed, or you build something which is so big that it's never going to be picked up in an EB, you can essentially fill up the mempool and not have to pay any cost for that. So
actually, it's worse than that. You can engage in the denial of service attack.
Yes, exactly.
Right? It's a DOS vector. Because basically you can put in if the voting level drops below say to 74%, no EBs are ever produced. You can throw an arbitrary number of transactions into the system and fill up the EBs and fill up the mempools. Modulo timeouts and things like that. So basically, the argument that they previously made about guaranteed forward motion, even in the presence of no EBs being produced, would cease to exist. Because the argument was, right? That was their argument.
Yeah, so that was problematic. Great. Should we close that off, Neil? Unless there's anything else.
But yeah, I think so. I'm continuing to track this. I will track it every week as to what's actually been done, and I will note that Claude will be my friend. Okay, but I mean, because I can't do it any other way. But I've got my queries now, and I've asked it all the right questions, and it knows what to do. And it's not that I'm trying to make I'll add it to my weekly Cardano catch up.
Great. Yeah. So should we continue with the other items? So there's the budget to discuss, the TSC budget to discuss. And there's some progress with the SIP editors, but we also have the other items to consider. Do you want to discuss that now, or should we postpone that to an out-of-band discussion, or carry it forward to next week?
Just want to give an update on what I have Kevin as slowly moving. I don't know what's the status with others.
Has the treasury withdrawal and the change to dollars occurred?
No, not yet. That's the only thing I wanted to add. It's being communicated in a timely manner. It's still, I would say, a week away from now, at least.
So the Intersect tortoise is having a good workout.
I'm not sure.
I'm not.
I cannot say anything literally, but
I know you
do-
can't, but this is one of the things of not being an employee and being elected to the thing is you can point out the bloody obvious, right? Okay.
Sometimes it's relatively hard for me even to discuss hard fork because I'm also in the hard fork working group and here as a secretary, so it's kind of
Yeah, but
balance. Yeah, but what I do know is that I'm pushing for it, and I was asking repeatedly on it, and I know there were some issues there, not specifically with that one only. So it's just a matter of correctly timing it. So yes, everything that we have agreed, that you have voted on, that was articulated and stated in the meeting minutes and text Kevin for clarification point was added there. James?
Has there any commitment to a time been given to us yet? To a date?